Hi, I'm Dr. Susanna Bozzoni, and I often get asked kind of how to start a resistance training program. And the best way, of course, is to work with somebody that can work with your body, a very well-trained trainer, or an exercise physiologist, or someone that can recognize where your weaknesses might be. That is opportunities for strength, but also opportunities to address things that really need to be addressed for long-term exercise, for long-term resistance training, because it's so important to do this as we age to keep our bone health and metabolic health. So number one, find somebody you can work with, somebody like my friend Matt Avery Hart and his team at Quantum Fitness. They're amazing, and he gave me some incredible tips on how to plan a resistance workout that is it really helped kind of put it in my mind. What do you want to make sure you include? Number one, you want to make sure you include a warm-up. So that warm-up is not just for warming up your muscles, but also to start looking at mobility and working on any problem spots that you might have. So what does that look like for you? Well, I have some hip issues. And so for me, it really helps to not just get moving, but also to do some controlled articular rotational exercises, those car rotational movements of your hips, which I'll show you an example of before I get started. Or if you have knee problems, maybe you even want to start with some light resistance to start activating some of your support muscles that you need. If you have knee pain, maybe you get into the quads, for example, as part of your warm-up. And then you go into your resistance training. So what Matt said that I found really helpful was really kind of having 6 components you want to make sure are addressed in a full body resistance day. And so that is squatting, lunging, pushing, pulling, hinging, and core. And you don't want to do all the legs necessarily back to back. You want to kind of rotate that in. So I'm going to show you some examples. Number one is with squatting. And I'm going to show you with dumbbells in this first video, and then some alternatives that you can do with loops or resistance loops in a different video, just so that whatever you have at home, this can be something that you can do. But again, I really encourage you to work with somebody to make sure your technique for your body is good. So squatting, these are suitcase squats. You want to always, in any of these exercises, engage your core. Take your time, maybe do a light set first to make sure you have the technique, and then do 2 heavier sets of 10 reps. So all of these, maybe shoot for 3 times 10 if that works for you. And you want to get to where you're lifting heavy but safely. So start with some squatting and then maybe do a pulling exercise. An example I'm going to show you is a bent over row. This is a great back body, posterior body exercise that's so important to oppose some of that forward posturing that we have talked about before, sitting on our desks and driving our cars, and all of that forward dominant positioning that we do so much in our day. So bent over rows, engaging your core really to protect your back is really important, bending your knees, and then squeezing those shoulder blades together as you bring your elbows back. And then maybe throw in some core. This is, of course, core can look a lot of different ways. It could be a plank exercise, or it could be some crunches, or this is one of my favorites, taking a dumbbell and very slowly but consciously rotating side to side so you get some of those transverse abdominal muscles in there. Pulling your belly in as if someone sucker punched you is really engaging that core. And then going into lunging, and backing up. So that squatting, pulling, and core exercise, you could do that as a grouping and then do 10 reps with each, and then rotate that again and maybe even again to get 2 to 3 sets of 10 reps to where you're really kind of pushing your edge, at least at the end. And then lunging, pushing, and hinging. So what does that look like? Well, lunging, I'm going to show you a posterior lunge here. So step behind you. Make sure you're stepping back far enough so that your knee of the forward leg is not going forward over your toes, but that's stabilized. And really engaging that forward leg as you bring your back leg forward. Again, I like to do this with a little bit of balance exercise. Again, this helps with my hip stabilizers, one of them which is kind of weak, and so that really helps me. You really got to engage your core with this exercise. And work on ideally like a 90-degree angle or so, what's right for your body. A pushing exercise is a push-up. You can do that on the ground, of course, but maybe you can't do that on the ground. And it's really better to work on a push-up on some kind of incline, like a chair or maybe even a wall, rather than putting your knees down, because that can really help you build up the strength to eventually get to a floor push-up. If you do that, and maybe you don't need to do that, maybe do it on a wall is all you need for your body right now. And then finally, a hinging exercise. One example that I'm going to show you is a deadlift. Of course, engaging your core, making sure your chest is lifted so you're not hunching over, and protecting your low back is important. You can bend your knees here to help with the technique. Depending on what your hamstrings need, and then take that hinge down to maybe just below your knees, and your core really helps bring you up, squeezing your butt at the top, not jutting your hips too far forward, but really engaging your glutes there at the top when you finish that rotation. So those are the 6 components. I hope that gives you some ideas of how to get a full body exercise with those major components in. And do not forget your warm up and your warm down, really working on those areas of whatever might be problems for you to keep it safe, and ideally work with a practitioner to help you do that. Hope this has been helpful. Have a wonderful day. Take care.